everyone, welcome to the second episode on the BSH Tutorials YouTube channel. This is going to be a continuation of the first video, the Piano Basics 1 video. So without further ado, let's get started. So I know you all are so eager to figure out what these black keys are. These black keys are flats and sharps. So a flat would be a half step below pitch, while a sharp is a half step above a pitch. So I mentioned half step. All a half step is the closest note to the note that you're referring to. So let's take C. A half step to C would be this note right here. And also this is a half step to C. So the first black key we're going to learn the name of is this black key right here. This note is called F sharp and also G flat. It's got two names because it's called an enharmonic, which means it's the same note but it has two names. So all the black keys are enharmonics. So we have F sharp and G flat. So how we know it's F sharp is, here's the F, like we discussed in the last video, and it's a half step above the F, which would add a sharp. So we got F sharp. But also, we have G flat because we have G, and a half step below a note would add a flat to it. So we have G flat. The next black note we have is, it's called G sharp or A flat. The next black note right here is G sharp or A flat. How we know it's G sharp is we have G, half step above a note is sharp, and we go half step above the G, which would add a sharp, so G sharp. And then A, half step below a pitch would add a flat, so we go half step below the A, which would add the flat, which would be called A flat. This note right here is a B flat or A sharp. So we have an A, half step above a pitch, add a sharp, A sharp, half note below pitch, flat, B flat. So now you know the notes on these three black keys, and this could correlate throughout the whole keyboard. F sharp, G flat, B flat, A sharp, G sharp, A flat. So next we're going to discuss the names of the black keys on the pairs of black keys. First note, this is a C, like we discussed in the last video, and a half step above it would add a sharp, so it's C sharp. This is a D, half step below something adds a flat, D flat. C sharp, D flat, C sharp, D flat. So this note right here is a D sharp and an E flat because half note above a note would add a sharp. So we have a D, add a sharp to it, D sharp. And then we have E, half note below a note would be add a flat. So A, E flat. Okay, so now you know all the names of the notes on the keyboard. So we're going to talk about something called an interval. So an interval is basically how far a note is from another. So let's take the note C. First interval we're going to talk about is a second, which is C and the note right next to it played together. That's called a second. Then we have the next interval, which is a third, which 1, 2, 3, third together. A fourth, as you see, the root, which is the note that it's named after. So like a C interval, C second interval is that with the C being named because it's the root. And then next, the fourth, F, the fifth, G, the sixth, A, the seventh, and then we have the eighth, which is called an octave, which we discussed in the last video. So when we're making something called a chord, we keep an account the different intervals. So a chord is basically a 3-note progression that goes with a note. So a C chord would be that, and it would be the first, the third, and the fifth. A cheat for that is you find the C, or you find any note. This works with any note. So if you want to find the major chord of this chord, you would use the progression, the root, and then you would go 4 half steps above the root, find the second note in the chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4, which is G, and then 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 3. So you have a C major chord. This could go with any key, which we'll discuss keys in a later video, but since we're near, let's do D. Here's D. 4 half steps above D would be the second note in D major chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, D major chord. So that can be translated throughout all the different keys. So a key is basically what's sharp and flat. Like if you play scale, which is basically a progression of all the notes in a key. So for example, in the key of C major, nothing sharp or flat. So you have, while if you have the key of D major, you have 2 sharps. G, we have 1 sharp. So we're going to discuss a 1, 4, 5 progression. So first, the 1, which that can be in any key, but we'll use C since it doesn't have any sharps or flats. So the 4 of the chord would be F, because 1, 2, 3, 4. So you would do an F major chord, which to find F major chord, you find the root, which in this case is F, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. F major chord. And then G, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth note of the C major scale. And remember how you find the chords is you have the root, which is G, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And yeah, so you got your 1, your 4, and your 5. All we've discussed so far is major chords and major scales, but there's also something called a minor scale. We're going to figure out how to find a minor chord from a major chord. So, let's start with C, because C has no sharps or flats. To find the minor chord of C, you bring the second note in the chord down a half step. So now you got C minor chord. And then this could be in any key. So we have D, that's a D major chord. Flat, or bring down a half step, the second note in the chord, we got a minor chord. E, F, G, A, B. Next thing before in this video, I want to discuss this thing right here. This is called the damper sustain pedal. So if you're playing a spinet, upright, or a grand piano, it's the rightmost pedal. The leftmost pedal is something called the soft pedal or the una corda, which it just makes everything softer. But since I'm not playing on a spinet, upright, or grand piano, I don't have the soft pedal. But this right here is the sustain pedal, and once you play it, it sustains a note. So take it, you've got the note C, and you take your finger off of it. It doesn't play anymore. But if you have the sustain pedal on, you play the C, and you take it off, it still plays. So you don't go. Instead you have. So make sure when you're pedaling that you lift your foot up and put it back down when you change chords. So if I have a C chord and I go straight to an F chord, it's gonna do something called smearing with the F chord, and it's not gonna give a very pleasant sound. And then So every time you change chords, you lift it up and press it back down, F, and then I can go to G, lift up, put it back down, G, and then go, lift it up, put it back down, F, and then C. And then you'll get, after you keep practicing and stuff, you are able to do this. So yeah, that's basically all I have for you today. Like I ended in the last video, the only way you're going to get better at the piano is if you practice. That's all I got. Alright guys, thank you for watching.